It was just past noon on a Tuesday when Elijah Walker stepped into one of the flagship stores of his own company, wearing nothing but a hoodie, dark jeans, and old sneakers. To everyone else in that room, he looked like just another customer. But Elijah wasn't here to browse. He was here to observe. What no one knew, not the staff, not the manager, not even corporate, was that the man now quietly walking past the rows of display tables was the founder and CEO of the entire national tech retail chain. A man responsible for over 4,000 employees. A man whose decisions affected millions in revenue. And yet, here, in this store, no one greeted him. Not even a glance. He had entered quietly, with purpose. No camera crew. No assistants. No fanfare. Just a man on a mission to see how his business truly ran, when no one was watching. What he found would leave him stunned. The store was modern. Sleek. Clean. Every shelf stocked with the latest gadgets and accessories. But as he moved slowly between the displays, something became obvious. The employees weren't just ignoring him, they were avoiding him. At the front counter, leaning casually on his elbow, a young man scrolled through his phone, completely checked out. Behind him, a second employee laughed at something on a tablet. Not once did either of them acknowledge Elijah. He picked up a product off the shelf, a premium wireless speaker. He turned it in his hands, reading the specs. Then he glanced toward the counter. Still nothing. He walked up slowly. The employee in the maroon shirt didn't look up. He just kept scrolling, as if the store wasn't open. "Excuse me," Elijah said politely. "Can I ask you something about this model?" The young man sighed, loudly, before glancing up just long enough to mutter, "Yeah, just check the tag. Everything's there." Elijah blinked. "It's not about the tag. I wanted to ask if this model syncs with..." The employee cut him off. "It should. I don't know. Depends what phone you have." Then, just like that, he looked back down at his screen. Before we continue, if you believe no one should be judged by how they look or what they wear, and that respect should never depend on appearance, hit that subscribe button. This story only gets more unbelievable from here. Elijah stayed calm. He had dealt with worse in boardrooms, in negotiations, even on investor calls. But what struck him wasn't just the lack of service, it was the attitude. The condescension. The dismissiveness. He placed the speaker gently back on the shelf and continued walking. A woman entered the store moments later, dressed in a blazer and heels. Within seconds, the same employee popped up. "Hi. Welcome in. Can I help you find anything today?" Elijah watched in silence. The contrast was clear. The woman smiled politely and began browsing, while the employee hovered nearby, offering recommendations and product details. Elijah moved to the corner of the store where the customer feedback station sat. He tapped through a few screens. The last month's ratings for this location? Mixed. Several complaints about unhelpful staff, poor attitude, and inconsistent service. He wasn't surprised. As he walked back toward the front, he noticed another customer, older man, casually dressed, standing near the register with a confused look. He had a product in hand but clearly didn't know where to go. The staff ignored him, too. Elijah walked up beside the man and gently asked, "Need help with that?" The customer smiled, relieved. "Yeah. I was just trying to figure out where I pay. No one's come over." Elijah looked toward the counter again. Same employee. Still on his phone. That's when Elijah made a decision. He approached the counter one last time. This time, he didn't ask about a product. He didn't wait to be noticed. He simply said, "Can I speak to the store manager?" The employee rolled his eyes. "He's not in today. I'm the lead for now." "Perfect," Elijah said. Then you'll do. The employee raised a brow. Do for what? Elijah reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a slim leather case. He flipped it open. Inside was a sleek corporate ID. His photo. His name. The company logo in silver. Elijah Walker. Chief Executive Officer. The employee's face changed instantly. All the color drained. His posture straightened. His phone hit the counter with a soft clack. I'm sorry, I didn't know. You didn't need to know, Elijah said firmly. You only needed to treat every customer with respect. But you didn't. The room went quiet. Even the other staff member behind the counter stopped moving. And Elijah? He hadn't raised his voice once. But he had just turned the entire store upside down. And what he said next would decide the future of more than just this employee. The silence in the store was deafening. What just seconds earlier had been a scene of casual indifference now felt like a courtroom. Elijah didn't have to say much. His presence, his authority, and that badge did all the talking. The young employee tried to gather himself, scrambling to explain. Sir, I didn't mean any disrespect. I thought you were just looking around. We get a lot of, people who just browse. Elijah raised an eyebrow. People who look like me? He asked, calm but sharp. The employee froze. He knew exactly what had been implied. And now, exposed under the weight of his own words, he had nowhere to hide. The other staff member stepped forward quietly. Mr. Walker, I apologize. I should have said something earlier. I saw what happened and it wasn't right. Elijah turned to him. Thank you for saying that. Sometimes silence speaks louder than the insult. He paused, then looked back at the first employee. I wasn't here today to fire anyone. I came unannounced to see how the business I built is being represented by the people I trust to run it. The employee nodded quickly, nervously. And it won't happen again, sir. I promise. But Elijah shook his head. You already had the chance to do it right. Not just with me, but with every customer who didn't look like a buyer to you. This wasn't a mistake. It was a habit. He pulled out his phone and tapped a few times. As of now, your access to the company system is revoked. You'll receive official notice of your termination this afternoon. The young man's eyes widened. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Elijah didn't wait for a response. He turned to the other staff member. You've been quiet, but respectful. I'll be forwarding your name to HR with a commendation. Your actions today showed integrity, even in silence. He then walked over to the older customer still waiting near the register. Thank you for your patience, sir, Elijah said warmly. Your purchase today is on the house. The man smiled, confused. Why would you do that? Elijah replied simply, because no one should ever feel invisible. Especially not in a place that claims to serve people. That's when a customer who had been watching the whole time from near the headphone section clapped once, softly. Then another joined. And then another. No big speech. No outrage. Just quiet recognition that something important had just happened. By the time Elijah stepped out of the store, the staff had gathered behind the counter, visibly shaken but aware that something had shifted. And they knew, things would never go back to the way they were. He walked to his car, hoodie still up, and paused for a second before opening the door. This hadn't been about catching someone in the act. It was about showing what leadership really looks like. Not in titles. Not in clothes. But in action. Because Elijah didn't need to prove who he was. He just needed to give them the chance to prove who they were. And that's exactly what they did. If this story reminded you that character always matters more than appearance, don't forget to subscribe. White heavy checkmark, leave a comment, Have you ever seen someone quietly stand up for what's right, just by showing who they really are? And remember, you never know who's watching. So treat everyone like they matter. Because one day, they might be the one signing your paycheck.